You are listening to the Cattle Call podcast. This is the place where computer-aided design and drafting meets humor and practicality, with a touch of business acumen thrown in for fun. Jim and Rocco, the owners of Zentech Consultants, the premier U.S. technology consulting firm for architecture, engineering, construction, and manufacturing, discuss the fascinating world of CAD with some humor and some honesty. The Cattle Call podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of the Cattle Call podcast with Jim and Rocco from Zentech Consultants. I am Jim, your host who is too tired to be this loud right now. And with me, as always, is my partner in all criminal endeavors,
Rocco.
See, I tricked him, folks. Now when the feds come for me, he's going down with me. I've made him an accomplice whether he wants to or not. We have it on tape. Oh, goodness. Can you see I'm tired? I'm getting silly. So what are we talking about today? Oh, we're talking about construction estimating in Bluebeam Revu, which is a great topic. But before we get into it, I have to torture Rocco because it's what I do. So you know what time it is again, Rocco, don't you?
It's time to take a nap.
Well, it is time to take a nap. That comes after. But for right now, it's time for the engineering joke of the week. All right.
Oh.
All right. So young engineering student, fresh out of college, goes on his very first job interview. And he sits down, he talks to the HR manager for a while. It goes well. And at the end of the interview, the HR manager looks at him and says, well, you know, what kind of salary, starting salary were you looking for? And the young guy says, well, I'm kind of hoping for, something in the neighborhood of like, $100,000 a year, depending on what your benefits package is. And the HR manager nods and says, well, I tell you what would you say to a package of $200,000 a year, 5 weeks vacation, 14 paid holidays, full medical, full dental, matching retirement fund of up to 50% of salary, and a company car or lease every 2 years. Say, we'll get you a Mercedes. And the engineer sits up straight and goes, wow, are you joking? And the HR manager says, of course I am, but you started it. There you go. There's your engineering joke of the week. The funny thing is we've had a couple of those interviews, which kills me. But hey, try and get what you can, folks. Ain't nothing wrong with that. All right. So on today's show, I want to get a little bit into some construction side stuff. Like I said, particularly the estimating end of things. And I am always amazed at how many people out there are still handling their construction estimating by hand. I field at least 2 to 3 phone calls every week where people tell me that they're still using, paper prints and they colored markers and drawing scales to measure and, doing their math by hand on a legal pad. There are even folks who I talk to in the construction estimating world who consider themselves to be very, cutting edge and tech savvy, because they're doing that and then typing their measurements into Excel instead of, using paper. And let me tell you, folks, if you're using any of these methods, you are at least a decade behind the tech curve. And I promise you that you're losing a ton of work and that your estimates are taking 10 times as long to complete as they should, with probably half the level of accuracy you're hoping for. Now, look, there are a lot very solid estimating systems out there that focus on specific industries, right? And they handle that particular type of work, whatever it may be, very, very well. But on today's show, I want to talk about a tool that you guys likely already own. All right, that is, for my money, the best estimating tool out there, and it is Bluebeam Revu. Revu is kind of the construction industry standard for, marking up construction documents. But a lot of folks out there just don't understand that even just right out of the box, basic Bluebeam can handle just about any kind of estimating that you guys need. So Rocco, when you talk with clients, do most of them know that Revu can handle all their estimating stuff, or do you find folks are surprised by that?
A lot of them are like, well, yeah, I hear that it does it, but, I've never really gotten into it. We do use Bluebeam, but it's mostly for markups.
Yeah, and that's not a bad response, right? Like, we'll talk about that later too. You know, so many folks who have Bluebeam and just don't understand what its capabilities really are. They're underutilizing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, like I was saying, right? There are a lot of industry-focused estimating systems out there, and I'm not in any way bad-mouthing them. But I actually see two big issues with most of those, right? The first is that they're what, you know, if any of you guys watch Good Eats like I do, Alton Brown, he calls it a unitasker, and he refuses to have one in his kitchen. Someone's got to do more than one thing. These estimating systems only work in a very specific instance and in a very specific way. Right? You can't use them for anything else, right? If it's a plumbing takeoff system, it's strictly plumbing, right? If you got to do any kind of HVAC or cross type system where you're overlapping with some other industry, you're going to be back in, you know, that manual takeoff mode for that extra data. And the second issue is that most industry-focused systems are not cheap. Right? You know, the software developers spend a lot of time and effort getting, you know, really hyper detailed with each tool to try and cover every possible configuration and variation that any user might come across. Right? And they need to recoup that investment in time. Hence, the prices are kind of astronomical sometimes. And what I like about Bluebeam is that it has taken an entirely different approach to estimating. Right? They've made it industry agnostic, right? And they give you very simple to use generic takeoff tools that you can adapt to just about any kind of work that you guys are doing, right? While still being able to use, you know, the same simple processes for those really weird, odd scenarios or overlapping items across industries, right? Instead of, you know, trying to develop, you know, detailed parts lists and libraries of thousands of components, right? Out of the box, Revu lets you handle basic functionality that you need in estimating, right? Counts, linear measurements, areas, volume measurements, et cetera. And you can just use those basic tools and just identify each one of them as whatever that item is in the real world. Just give it some text and say, hey, you know, this is a pipe or this is a sidewalk. And it also gives you really nice, extensive display options, right, for things like, you know, colors and line types and line thicknesses and fonts and hatches and so on, so that you can visually distinguish the items when you place it on screen in your takeoff. So, you know, Rocco, we do a lot of training for Bluebeam estimating here at Zentech. What's the kind of the general takeaway, I guess, that people have from those classes in terms of its, you know, the base capabilities and adaptability of Revu for their estimating?
Yeah, I mean, because they, you know, the initial perception is well, you know, I've heard that it handles estimating. You know, when they're through with our classes or through with our services, they're hugely impressed because there's just like you're describing, there's so much that you can do. So it's a learning process, right? And it's not very, very difficult to learn Bluebeam either. I mean, that's one of the benefits of using the tool. It's relatively simple to learn, and it's very, very affordable, especially when you compare it against some of the competitive tools that are out there.
Yeah, price wise, it's a huge difference. Yeah, look, one of the great things about Bluebeam is that it's entirely PDF based, right? So you don't need to print out your plans, right? It's all done on a screen with really simple point and click tools that just about anybody can use. You know, you draw a line from point A to point B and it tells you what the length is, right? You know, you click at, you know, each corner of a deck to get an area or a volume, right? Or you can just go in if you need to count things, you just click on each item that, you know, you need to count. And Bluebeam keeps track of how many objects there are. You know, and from there, all you really need to do is give these items that you're drawing on screen a label, right? Like, hey, this is a, you know, 110 volt outlet or whatever it may be. And Revu can then sort and filter and generate, you know, output reports and legends right on your plan that summarize everything that's being taken off and is part of your job. You know, basic takeoff with Revu is incredibly simple. But I think the best part of Bluebeam is that it can also be configured to your very specific workflow and needs, right? So it can handle all of your cost and pricing calculations in real time as you're drawing those lines and areas and counts, right? And it can do just about anything that Excel can do, right? In terms of calculations and formulas and drop downs and selection lists and 100 other customizable features, all right inside Bluebeam, right? All designed to simplify and speed up that takeoff process to levels most of us really have never dreamed of. And that's really kind of what I want to get to in the next half of the show, right? Kind of customizing Revu to your specific workflow needs, and structures, right? But before that, of course, as always, we need to get a word in from today's sponsor so that, Rocco and I can pay our car payments. All right, so stand by, folks. We'll be back in just a minute with more of the Cattle Call Podcast. All right, everybody, this is Jim and Rocco from ZenTech Consultants talking to you today about our ZenTech Bluebeam Revu tools. All right, our ZenTech Revu tools are an awesome way for you guys to be able to get out there and do some lightweight takeoffs on your projects. Look, Bluebeam Revu in and of itself offers fast, simple, and accurate takeoff of all your building structures, right? But most of us still struggle with getting consistent output on each project. And that's where ZenTech Revu tools for Bluebeam comes in. It gives you a full suite of simple to use tools designed specifically for your own trade or industry that'll just show up right inside of everybody's Bluebeam in your entire company. We have sets for site work, structural, exteriors, interiors, even a set of tools specifically for general contractors and more on the way. So Rocco, why don't you tell folks where they can find out more about our ZenTech Revu tools?
Yep, it's at zentechconsultants.net, and you can actually purchase them right off of our e-store if you want. Or if you want to talk to us, give us a call, 866-824-4459, or drop us an email, sales@zentechconsultants.net.
There you go, folks. ZenTech Revu tools exclusively from ZenTech Consultants. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Cattle Call Podcast, where we're talking about estimating for construction with Bluebeam Revu. And in this half of the show, I want to kind of talk about the ways that you can configure Revu to work the way that you want it to, instead of your users having to learn a new restrictive takeoff process and change to somebody else's report structure and display standards, because that's what the new software does. The first thing that I kind of want to talk about here is the concept of custom columns inside of Bluebeam. As you perform your takeoffs, right, you can build and structure your own data fields that will show up in each plan in order to handle just about any kind of information or calculation that you might need to keep track of as part of your estimate. Think about it like this, right? Do you need to know what is the make, the model, or the part number of an item? No problem. We can add text or number fields, right? So you can enter those for each part. Do you want your guys to be able to just select from, multiple finish options for each item? Not a problem, right? We can build drop-down menus where people can select the correct choice. Are you looking to put in, your cost per unit, all right? Or how about, waste percentages or tax rates or profit margins? Bluebeam can do all of that, right? Along with things like dates and checkboxes and a ton more. And best of all, the custom columns that you can build inside a Revu have the ability to handle formulas, right? In other words, as I measure the length of a rail, right, from point A to point B, I can have a field, a data field, that multiplies whatever that length is times the cost per foot, then adds in a waste factor, and then throws in tax rates, right, and then includes labor rates times however many hours I think it's going to take to install that rail. All of that math will happen in real time. And all the user needs to do is draw the line from point A to point B. Everything else becomes automated, right? And when that line is stretched or modified or moved or updated, the pricing calcs, right, or any other calcs, right? It doesn't have to just be pricing. It can be, weight or square footage, whatever you need. The calculations will update automatically, right? That's full-blown automation. I mean, you can even go in, right? And instead of doing it at the kind of the drawing level, you can manually go in and override a cost or a percentage for discounts, right? And all the maths will resolve that way too, right? When you combine all of that with reviews, built-in sorting and filtering and reporting tools, it becomes a really, really simple thing to generate, takeoffs and material lists with detailed information in just minutes, right? And you can even sort and filter that down so that you can do output in terms of, different phases or different areas of their jobs or different heating and cooling zones, whatever you need. It's really, really amazing. Rocco, how many of our clients are fully aware of the custom column functionality and how it can handle their pricing, et cetera, when we talk to them? I mean, do you find that it's kind of common knowledge with users, or is it something that we kind of need to show them?
Yeah, it is and it isn't. I mean, we work with some very, very large customers all the way down to your very, small GCs. And, a lot of times with the larger customers, they do understand it, and that's why they come to us, because we can help them with the customization, and because of our experience or the services that we offer. But there are a lot of small to medium-sized firms that they have an idea, right? But they need to understand it better, and that's what we're here for. So it's all over the map in terms of who's familiar with the custom columns and such, and who's not.
Okay. So, I guess kind of my favorite thing in all of the Bluebeam world, it's the ability to create your own custom reusable tools, all right, that can then be distributed to everybody in your company for estimating, right? And these tools are perfect for estimating. You can draw right on screen in Bluebeam. You can draw any symbol that you need, whatever you want it to look like. And then you can save that to a tool chest, right? And then you can supply default values for all of those custom data columns we were just discussing. Right? And you can even set these tools to come in on default layers and provide links to the specs and the cut sheets, et cetera, for each tool. There's a ton you can do here. And it kind of lets you create any object that you regularly need to take off on your plans just once. Right? And then it becomes a point and click tool forever. And I love that these can be shared with basically an unlimited number of people in your company. That way you can get very consistent, very fast and easy takeoffs, no matter who does the work. And those takeoffs are always going to look the same and have the same basic data on every single job, right? You can go in this way and open up a project that you've never even seen before, and you can immediately tell what's what, because everybody using the same tools, the same features, the same display that shows on the estimates that you've done, right? You can even create with Bluebeam different profiles, right, that contain different types of tools for different kinds of work, right? So say that you're an MEP firm, right? You can have a separate profile for mechanical and a different one for electrical and a different one for plumbing that each contain tool sets, right? Or we'll think of them like drawers that hold tools that have been structured for that particular type of work, right? And those tool sets are just great organizers. So, the idea is that like, hey, I can put all the pipe materials in one tool set, and then I can put all the pipe fittings in another tool set, right? And whatever else, you guys do, right? The bolts and the connectors, they can be in separate tool chests, just like opening a toolbox, in your workshop. And you get to configure those tools into a standardized format that makes sense for your company and the kind of work that you do. Rocco, we do a lot of consulting with clients, help them build out their review estimating system so that it's going to work exactly the way they need it to. So how do we usually start and work those jobs, and how can folks get started with us here at Zentech to kind of make that happen if they're interested?
Yeah, it does depend upon the size of the job, right? But we do, if you're a smaller firm, or you're just looking to kind of get started and use a proof of concept, let's say, to prove to the rest of your team that this is really going to work and that it's efficient, we offer our tool set kickstart program, and it's $29.95.
$29.95?
Yes.
No.
$2,995.
Nothing personal. I've been at the lunch with Rocco. We can't even get that for $29.95.
I know, I know. So we could start out, and there's smaller tool sets that we build even beyond our what's available with our Kickstart, or there's larger projects that we get into, and with those there's needs assessments, there's discussions that are held, and it's a back and forth, right? I mean, obviously we have a lot of experience, but we need to learn about your business and what you guys do and what your goals are. And give you ideas for what you can do. Bluebeam, there's we've been working with customers for several years now, right? Where we've started with small tool sets, and it's just expanded and expanded from there. So there's just tons that you can do. It all comes down to time and money.
Time and money, just like everything.
And not $29.95.
No, because that won't even get me a sub. So, I think the versatility, I guess, of Revu is it's really unlike any other takeoff system that I've ever worked with, right? It can be adapted to literally any type of work, any industry, whatever pricing structures, methodologies, it doesn't matter, right? Just about anything. And the fact is that most of the people who are listening to the podcast today already own the software. Bluebeam Revu is such a versatile system in this way that here at Zentech, we've actually, like Rocco was starting to say a little bit about earlier, we've taken to developing, industry focused tool sets ourselves and kind of selling them as predefined packages, right? We have, full sets for structural steel, and we have a whole array of HVAC takeoff tools with more on the way, right? That you can just buy and plug right into Revu. And we're actively working on adding a lot more of those over the next year. Now, I know that sounds contradictory, right? I said at the top of the show that industry-focused estimating tools were a little bit limiting. But the tools that we're putting out here, I think, they're part of the flexible review system, and they use and integrate with standard review features. So really, what they are, they're just pre-built versions of the custom tools that we've been talking about here on the show today. The idea is that, we put them together here so that you guys don't have to spend your own time developing, everything under the sun to handle all your estimates, right? And I find that a lot of the people who buy our Zen Estimate tools, they use them as a reference to kind of add to and tweak out and develop their own as they go. Or they even ask us to come in and adjust and tweak those tools that they bought to their specific needs. It's just, for a lot of folks, it's a lot more time and cost effective to have, Zentech put together a few thousand intelligent symbols on our dime, right? Rather than you guys taking your people off of billable work to do it yourselves. So Rocco, plug time, right? How do folks get details on our Zen Estimate tools, and what are they looking at there in terms of costs?
Yeah, of course, it's all on our website, zentechconsultants.net. And you can actually see the tools in action, right? We have a number of videos that are posted, and we could always set up live demos and deeper discussions to talk about how you can, how we can expand on what we've already pre-built. But the Zen Estimate steel and HVAC tools, they're $595. It's a one-time perpetual license, and then we sell them with annual maintenance at $149 a year. The annual maintenance is optional, but if you renew the annual maintenance and keep it current, then as we develop new versions of our tools, you get access to those tools. So yeah, it's all on the website. Check it out.
There you go. All right, so I'll wrap it up by saying that even beyond estimating, right? Bluebeam Revu has just a staggering amount of functionality, much more than most of us are using. And it's a tool in general that you really should be looking at making your primary work and communication and estimating tool in the construction world. Too many of the folks out there think that Bluebeam, it's a replacement for Acrobat that lets us mark up notes on a PDF. And that is about 5% of what Bluebeam can do in the construction space. Right? If you add in the estimating stuff, maybe that's another 20% of Bluebeam's real functionality. Trust me when I tell you that every time we talk to folks about what Bluebeam can do for them, they're absolutely stunned. All right. So if you're listening, do yourself a favor and pick up the phone and call Rocco or email Rocco and see how it can be adapted to help you. And that's going to make me feel better too, because at least then I'll be able to see him actually doing some work for once. All right. So you guys reach out, talk to Rocco, make him earn his pay, would you? All right, folks. With that, see, I woke him up. All right, we're going to get out of here. We'll catch you next time on the Cattle Call Podcast. All right, everybody. Today's Cattle Call was brought to you courtesy of Zentech Consultants. That's Rocco and I. Zentech Consultants works with design and manufacturing firms to help our clients purchase and implement the software that they need in these complex industries. We provide a single point of contact for clients to buy, develop, and learn the most vital software systems for your specific needs. Zentech strives to be your trusted technology partner from your initial needs all the way through long-term support and training for your entire staff. So Rocco, why don't you tell them how to reach out to Zentech?
All right, yeah, you can reach out to us through zentechconsultants.net. You can email us at sales@zentechconsultants.net, or you can even call us 866-824-4459.
Excellent. We look forward to hearing from y'all.